Alright, so we've already talked about the aperture, which is the width of the opening in your camera. So you can let in more or less light by making the opening wider or smaller. We've talked about the shutter speed, which is the speed of your shutter, or how long your shutter's open on your camera. You can let in more or less light by opening your shutter longer or for a shorter amount of time. And the third variable here is ISO. ISO is your camera's sensitivity to light. So if you're out on a bright sunny day like these two people on the beach, there's plenty of light out. It's bouncing off the sand, it's everywhere, it's intense. You don't need a very high ISO. In other words, you don't need your camera to be very sensitive to light because there's a lot of light. And if your camera is very sensitive to it, then you'll probably have way too much. And the other parts of your exposure will be affected, like your shutter speed and your aperture. You'll have to have a super fast shutter speed and a super small aperture to make up for that really high sensitivity. So on really bright days like this, you can use a low ISO. In fact, you probably want to put it as low as your camera can go. Usually that's somewhere between 80 and 200 ISO. Same with any other sunny day like this. You're out in the country, it's broad daylight, everything is bright, you can probably use the lowest ISO on your camera. Now if you're shooting in a darker situation and you don't want to use a flash and you don't want to use your tripod, that's when you want to use a higher ISO. This photo was shot at ISO 1600. Here's another example. I took this monkey photo in the jungle in Bali where there was a lot of shade and I wanted to expose him just right, so I used a higher ISO to make my camera more sensitive to light because there wasn't very much light available.